What is up, Devin?
Hey, Roger. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. We have a very special guest on the show with us today, Miss Pat from Randy's Records fame.
So happy to have her. And it's St. Patrick's Day. We didn't even do that on purpose.
We did not plan this, ladies and gentlemen. It just happens. That's what happens when you put good things and energy together.
That's right.
Yeah, it just happens. And speaking about things that happen, you know what happens is news. News happens.
You got some news for us?
I have some news for us. To start off our news segment this week, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about Reggae Rise Up Las Vegas. This is a festival featuring Slightly Stupid, Dirty Heads, Jesse Royal, Collie Buds, a bunch of other great acts. This thing has been moved to October 9th and 10th of this year. So I don't know the exact date that they started off with, but it got moved. So, yeah.
It's happening.
It's happening.
That's good. You know, a lot of these festivals just got put off for so long, and now it's nice to have some concrete dates for music to be happening.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is the last round of like...
Oh, you just jinxed it.
I did, huh? We're not going to... Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, no more live music till 2023.
No, it's happening. Reggae Rise Up Vegas, October 9th and 10th, 2021. It's happening.
It's happening.
You know, one really cool thing that happened this week was that Toots won a Grammy for best reggae album for his recent record, Got to Be Tough. You know, it's bittersweet because of course Toots wasn't here to enjoy it, but it was his second Grammy. You know, he won in 2005 for the True Love record. But I'm just really happy his family got to see him win this Grammy. There were some other really good records nominated this year, and to see Toots, you know, deservedly take it home, it was nice to see, you know. And speaking of Toots, there's still the petition going around started by Roger Steffens to get Toots inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. People can click the link in the video description of this show, and you can go sign the petition if you haven't already. It's pretty ridiculous that Toots is not already in the Hall of Fame, but we can get him there. The petition is doing well so far, and if you haven't signed, please do.
Go and sign up, people. We need that to happen for sure.
Yes.
So next, we're going to go into our record of the week as we do every week. And who starts it this week, Dev?
I think I do. I think it's my turn this week. I'm really excited about my record. It's one of my favorite tunes, and we'll talk about it on the flip side, but I want everyone to really pay attention. It's a beautiful tune. The vocals are beautiful. The lyrics are beautiful, but I want everyone to pay attention to the drums. This song is on my short list, like top 10, maybe even higher, of reggae drum tracks. And I'm going to issue a challenge to everybody out there, and to you too, Roger, if you can name this drummer just by the playing style.
I'm ready.
So this is a 1978 tune by the Terrors called Assemble Not Thyself. who played drums on that. We got some people guessing in the comments. My brother, Patrick, what's up, Patrick, says Horsemouth. Carter Van Pelt of VP Records. What's up, Carter? Big up VP.
Yo, Carter.
Says Sly or Horsemouth.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Alonso says that Busy Style sure sounds like Horsemouth.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Those are all good guesses.
The cool part is I have it set up so we're like I don't have the comments tab open.
Oh, right.
And so I'm not cheating, but I was going to say Horsemouth as well. And there's one thing that like really comes through that it's Horsemouth is the crash. For me, it's just so that's like, I don't know. That's his thing. The sound where he just hits that crash. So tell us it's not Horsemouth. Well, who is it?
It's not
Devin?
Horsemouth. It is Sly Dunbar.
Dang it. I was leaning
Horsemouth
towards
is a great
Horsemouth.
guess. I would have easily guessed Horsemouth. You know, you're right. Those fills on that crash for sure.
Just the crash.
But that was recorded. That's a Phase 1 7-inch. Here it is.
Nice.
And you know, Phase 1 was a great label. The producer is Roy Francis, and they didn't have their output wasn't huge, but what they lacked in quantity, they more than made up for in quality. You always know Phase 1 is going to be super quality, crucial tunes, and Sly was like the house drummer.
Right.
So everything I have read, like it doesn't say Sly on this record, so I mean there's an outside chance it's not, but everything I've read, and I've read a lot about the Phase 1 label because I really like it, says that Sly Dunbar was the guy there.
Oh, so you're assuming. So we could be right. I'm just joking. I'm sure you're right.
A highly educated guess.
Highly educated guess. Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, I love that tune because the drums are just the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane the whole time. And there's a 12-inch version of that goes into a wicked dub. The flip side of this, I actually don't love that much because it's got this like, it's 1978 and they were just experimenting with synthesizers, you know, and it's got this like lead synthesizer throughout that, you know, it was probably cool at the time. I don't really super dig it, but
right.
But you know, there's a 12-inch version where it goes into just a wicked version of that. Just focuses on the drums. It's Lloyd Ricketts on lead vocals. He was the lead singer of the Terrors, which
Wow.
you know, the Terrors didn't have a bunch of tunes, but they had some quality ones. I've got another one by them called Settle Down. That's just same kind of vibe, same kind of singing, just beautiful
Right.
harmony style, nice melodies. And Lloyd Ricketts was an original founding member of the Untold, who are one of the great, you know, reggae groups and one of my favorite groups. And I was happy to find out a little bit about the Terrors and that Lloyd Ricketts was in it, because sometimes we've talked about this many times. You know, sometimes these groups that have a low output have maybe 2 or 3 tunes. You don't know too much about them. You know, so I was happy to find out a little bit. There's been a lot written about the Phase 1 label. They had, you know, Roy Francis, the producer at Phase 1. I think his biggest hits were with the Chantels, and their really popular stuff came out on the Phase 1 label.
The change that happens in that song, you know, we're always talking about things like what makes a good song, and I'm a big fan of chord changes and or not necessarily the actual words, but just the mood that a song can present. And every time it goes to that change, I'm like, dude, that's so dope.
Yeah.
You know, on paper it might seem like a regular change, but his choice of melody, along with the band changing to that chord, yeah, it's heavy for sure.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
And I want to shout out my brother Patrick, who's in the comments, because he loves that song too. Him and I really like to listen to that song together.
Great story about Patrick. No,
we'll tell that.
Patrick's
later.
the man. Yeah,
we'll tell that later. What record do you have for us today, Roger?
I switched it up. I have a record. The title of it's called Endust. It's an organ instrumental, and it's by Randy's All Stars.
Ooh.
And so let's take a listen.
All right.
That shaker's killing it, man.
I was gonna say that shaker. No one would ever mix a record like that today. You know,
Right,
like,
right.
Can you turn that shaker down? But it's perfect where it is.
Oh, totally. So now here's my quiz to you. Who's on the shaker?
Horsemouth.
You nailed it. It is Horsemouth.
All right.
And that's our show for no. I'm joking. I really like this tune a lot. I mean, it's a dope tune. It's got the pop-a top organ rhythm, which, you know, that rhythm doesn't work in every scenario. You know, like sometimes it sounds forced and sometimes it is natural. And this kind of adds to the chug of it, the whole movement of the tune. And yeah, I definitely want to ask Miss Pat on Randy's All Stars and see if it was kind of a traveling, revolving roster, right, or if it was, you know, more of a set thing, at least with a like couple people, drum and bass, whoever, and also about the organ, because I see many pictures of Randy's and they have the Hammond. I think it's called the X something, but it's like it's a solid state. So I wanted to see how over the years if they switched different organs and then finally ended up on the Hammond that we see in the modern pictures, the more modern pictures of Randy's. But yeah, produced by Vincent Randy Chin, recorded in 1970, and definitely want to ask her about the Randy's All Stars.
That's just a chugger. I mean, it's not a chugger in the sense of what we would usually call like a sound dimension chugger, right?
Right,
I mean, it's just got me going like yeah. The pop-a top organ thing. I think you really articulated what that is. You know?
Oh yeah.
I don't hear a lot of people refer to it with that label, but that's totally what it is. From the tune
It's
Pop-a-Top.
Right. And the reason I do give it that label, and I think others do too, I'm not quite sure, is it the first time it's really implemented, it was the Papa Top song, you know, the version of Fat Man, the Derek Morgan. There's many versions of that song, Fat Man, the Derek Morgan version, but that Papa Top, I think it's called Papa Top, the actual song. So
yeah. End Dust. That's a interesting title.
End Dust. And Trip Out on This. That is actually side, on the picture it says side 1, but that one that I played, it was actually side 2, or part 2 rather.
Oh wow.
So part 2. So I think part 1 has this vocal kind of intro thing. But yeah, I just like part 2 better. I don't know why. Yeah. So I played it for you.
Part 2 is the one.
Yeah, part 2. Next show I'll play part 1 and we'll
that'd be good.
Discuss the differences.
All right, that was a nice one. Oh, sorry, Raj.
No, go for it. That was pretty much it.
That was our Record of the Week segment, and you know, every week our Record of the Week segment is brought to you by the Reggae PodClash merchandise store. You can go to rootfire.net and pick up your mug, your hoodie, your hat and your beanie, and of course your t-shirts. This show is a non-profit show, but there are some expenses, and all proceeds go to support the upkeep of the show. So we would really appreciate if you checked out the shop at rootfire.net and clicked on the store tab. And after you do that, you can enter yourself into this giveaway that we are giving away this week, before we bring our guest on, we want to mention that VP Records, which has been a great partner of the show for us, big up Carter and the whole VP family.
Yeah.
We're giving away, courtesy of VP, a LP from Clive Hunt. Last week we were giving away his new record. This week we're giving away a compilation that VP put out called Bad Bad Bad, and it gathers some of his most sought out singles from the mid 70s era. It's 1973 to 1976. It really is Bad Bad Bad. Some
Heavy
of his Clive
record.
Hunt productions from that time are just killer. You can't go wrong. Enter to win Bad 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 LP by Clive Hunt. You can find the link to the contest in the video description below. So please go do that. You don't want to miss out on this record. Speaking of records, Raj.
Mm-hmm.
Who do we have?
Speaking of records, we talking of Randy's Records. Our guest today is co-founder of Randy's Records, Studio 17, and VP Records. Without further ado, please welcome reggae icon Patricia Miss Pat Chin.
Hey,
Miss Pat.
Hello there. Hi, Roger. And what's your last? I don't remember your name again.
That's okay. I'm Devin.
Devin
Yeah.
and Roger. Thank you for having me. Welcome.
Yeah, it's great having
Good
you.
evening.
We're having
Yeah,
fun so
it's
far.
great having you. How exciting! The book just came out today, right?
Yes, today is a release date for
Wow.
my reggae music journey book. 60 years of music. And
Nice.
from 1958 come right up to now. So I'm very fortunate to have it released today. And we're hoping that we'll have a good sale. You know, it's like over 200 pages, a coffee table book,
Nice.
and over 200 pictures from way back when. You have
Wow.
Jude Coxon's and Lee Perry. Everybody's in the book way back.
Congratulations. I can't wait to get my copy. I have to ask, did you plan purposely to release Miss Pat on St. Patrick's Day?
No, I never thought of it. It's just we're happy that it's released today.
There's just all kinds of Pats happening today. We had the Miss
Yeah.
Pat book is out. I saw that you did an interview earlier today with the great Pat McKay. So
Yes,
You had
Wow.
double Pats on
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day. I just think it's all coming together.
yes,
Wow.
yes.
And then Devin has a brother, no lie, named
Yes,
Patrick.
my
and
little
he's
brother
in the,
Patrick
Yeah.
is in
He's
the
in the
comments.
guest
so we're
comments
just-
too,
Very popular name.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
As it should be.
as it
Yeah.
should be for sure. I'm sure. I really want to get the book, and I it's on the way. I wanted to get it before today, but when I do get it, I've heard already by people that got it delivered that there's a lot of pictures that never before seen kind of stuff. Was it pictures that you had like just put away in the closet in storage? Was it? I mean,
Yes, I think the collection of the pictures gave me the hardest time because
Right.
I had to ask friends, I have to beg friends, I have to go back in my archive, I have to take out this one, put in. I think the pictures, putting them together, took me the longest time because there
Yeah.
were so many pictures, and we want to showcase pictures that was not in any book before, some very rare pictures. So we took a lot of time in trying to select the pictures. And the producers, who like 60 years ago, like Duke Reed and Coxon and so on,
right.
we did try to get a big selections of unusual pictures.
That's
So
awesome.
it really started out with a scrapbook for my grandkids, and then
Oh,
it
nice.
turned into text, and then it turned into having the artists, in the book also. So it's really a coffee table book, very heavy, almost 5 pounds.
Wow.
I said over 200 pages and over 200 pictures.
Wow. You mentioned producers, and I was talking to Devin about this. Because 17 North Parade, you're right in the heart of Kingston, and there's other shops going on, right? You had Joe Gibbs, Bunny Lee, Prince Buster. Was it like a sense of competition, or was the competition really not there? Was everybody getting their fair share of customers, or was it a constant competition to sell records?
Well, most producers only sell their records that they produce. For example, Duke Reed and Coxsone, they have their own. Treasure Isle had their own, which is Duke Reed. The Technique sell their record. Beverly sell their record. But what I did, I created a one-stop. So I went out and buy records from everybody and make it into a one-stop record store. So not only did I sell my records, but I also sell other people records, other producers. So when the sound system guys came in from the country or foreigners came to buy, they could just make a one stop
Nice.
because the producers were spread out all over. So if you want a Coxsone record, you have to go to another area. You have to go to Duke Reed. You have to go to Beverly's. So what Prince Buster, I did all those buying and keep them under one spot. And I created a one-stop record store. That's why my store was different from the others. Because I wanted when a customer comes in, whether abroad or from the country or the sound system, they would just have one stop.
Why do you think Randy's was the only place doing that? It seems like such a great idea. How come other people didn't do the same thing, do you think?
I guess there was competition between the producers too. They compete, you know. I remember Coxsone and Duke Reed, they compete. So as Beverly's and Prince Buster, there was a lot of competition with the producers who would have the best rhythm, who would have the best singers, who was hot at that time. So with me, it didn't matter to me because I get along with all of them. So I bought their records and sell it back.
And
I wasn't in any competition. I was doing a business.
right.
Nice.
And all those producers were okay with that you were doing the one
Yes.
stuff?
Well, you know, I would give you an example. At one time, you know, Joe Gibbs was just a block over from me. He never wanted to sell me his record because I had so much customer coming in my record store. So all I did is ask somebody to go buy some records for me and I sell them back about a 10 cents or a 12 cent and sell them back. It doesn't matter to me because the most important thing for me is to have the record the customer wants.
Right.
And that makes me that special store. You know, when you go to a record store and you're looking for a record and you can't get it, how disappointed you are.
Oh,
So
for
when you
sure.
want a record, maybe you have a clash going on and you want a particular record, they get them right there. And I often ask my friends, why do you buy from me when you could go all over and buy? They said because I had 99% of what they wanted.
Nice.
So they came and buy from me.
Did Joe Gibbs find out about that?
Well, it didn't matter to me because he's getting his record sold.
Right.
That's true. That's true. You know, I'm imagining an environment where there's so many people in the record shop. They're putting on different records, you know, so people are able to hear in real time what they're going to buy. You know, we don't have that as much. Well, we don't have any really stores that we go and get records, but that whole process of being able to just hear the record before you buy it, you know, it doesn't really go on. So was there any records that you can remember that immediately when the needle hit the record, everybody just wanted that copy? Like,
As many records are like that. We had a counter which is about 20 feet long. And I would say, like on the weekends, you had about 20 customer lineup, mostly men. And then we had two turntables where we would spin the records. And if you have a version, you'll put it on the other. And they would just, you could sell 10, 15 record one time because as you put it on, they would say, let me have one, let me have, because they don't want to be out of it. So everybody's clamoring to get one of the same record, you know. So
Yeah.
it was an exciting time because every week we had about 15, 20 new records coming. So you have to be sharp to know the name of the record, the producer, the name of the song, the rhythm, and things like that. So because I was on the counter for a long time, 20 years, I knew all the records. I know the producers, the singers, the artists, the musicians, the
Wow.
rhythms. So I learned everything, like how you was talking about some of your records that you liked a lot.
Yeah.
I was that person on the counter too.
And so Randy's Records, before Studio 17 even started, it was a record shop. So when Studio 17 starts, of course, your favorite producer and music is obviously Randy's 17 stuff. But prior to that, did you have like a favorite producer that, because you were just selling records from other producers at that
Yeah,
point, correct? Did you
yeah.
have any favorites that you were like, oh, yeah,
Well, I usually like Duke Reed records. Duke Reed was the only producer that did not have a store. He used to sell soft drinks. But when he presses his record, he would just send them right to me because I was his outlet. I used to love Coxson's record a lot too. I think Coxsone, Duke Reed, and Beverly's was the three
Mm,
big producers during the 50s and 60s that I really, really liked. Because we weren't producing record at that time. We were just
right,
buying and selling
right,
until when we formed Studio 17, then we start to produce and to hire the studio to other producers. But we had a little area named Igler's Rest where everybody would gather up. From 9 o'clock we open until 8 o'clock when we close. There was
wow,
artists, musicians, backup singers, people buying, people selling, people talking about music. Everybody was just there. It was a beautiful time. It was a haven for all musicians and music players and music and everything. So it was a very nice time, a very exciting time for the music because we are just starting to get our records play on the radio. In the early 50s, they didn't play the records because they didn't. It was all R&B and American records. It was until later on then they start. At least the public demanded them to play it, because they didn't play the Jamaican record.
mm-hmm.
Bob Marley records didn't sell at first. I remember Chris Blackwell coming with Bob Marley records to try to sell me to. They didn't sell at all until he became popular and everybody started to rush off the record and try to find as much Bob Marley records to sell by then. But it
Wow.
was an exciting time. It's just like an experimenting with the music, and then it becomes a culture, and it becomes our culture in music. But at
wow,
first, we didn't have a culture called reggae or
Right.
right,
Jamaican music. In 1962 or 64, I know Byron Lee came to America at the World's Fair, and he brought young Jimmy Cliff, Prince Buster, quite a few other musicians with him, and he performed at the World's Fair. So we have given America at the World's Fair ska music and reggae music. We didn't call it reggae at that time; it was a ska,
Ska.
a rock steady.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a genre from Mentos to ska to rock steady to drum and bass to dancehall. Evolution of names and it goes with the dancing too. The dances change as the music changes.
Oh, for sure. You mentioned Idler's Rest, and I just every time I hear about that, I mean, it just to people like Roger and myself who are just our whole life has been listening to reggae music and trying to learn more about Jamaican music. To hear about a situation like that where just all those artists and musicians are hanging out in a spot, just sounds like it sounds like make believe to us. Just like I can't believe that even happened. And for you as someone who that was your everyday experience and that's just what you were doing at the time, I wanted to ask, were there were there some specific artists? Because I know you knew everybody, but were there some specific artists that you really maybe formed a nice personal relationship with and were especially close to from that time?
There's so many of them because why they gather there in the mornings until night. When a recording is being done, they would need a backup singer or they would need a special instrument for percussion. So they would get a job. They would say, "Come up, keep popping," or "Come up, Horace, come up,"
Ooh.
and they would go up and back up the producers. So they really came there to get a job because it was a place where they could hopefully get a job to back up
Mm-hmm.
the producer or something. But Aria Sandy, I loved him a lot. Alton Ellis, Dennis Brown. He came very regular with 90, producing Westbound Train, Cassandra, and all like that.
All right.
I'm very fond of Alton Ellis too. He made one record for us, Too Late to Turn Back Now.
Ooh.
And before he passed, I was very fortunate to talk with him while he was in the hospital. And he just remembered when he came to the store and the studio. He said, Miss Pat, I remember when I recorded Too Late to Turn Back with you. I said, Alton, your music will never live on because you have your son Chris also that does music. So
Yeah.
it was such a nice and special way to remember him, and he remembered me.
He definitely did remember you. Roger and I had we're musicians and had the opportunity to play with Alton Ellis in Los Angeles in 2006, and we talked to him as much as we could just about those days. And he mentioned Miss Pat and Randy's and how much it just what it meant to him at that time, and that was really just the best stuff happening. Then you just mentioned Keith Poppin, right, as a
Yes.
backup vocal? Wow, that's really cool. He's one of my favorite artists, and you don't really hear that name brought up too much. Do you have any Keith Poppin stories?
Well, Keith Poppin, he sang on my Keith. You asked me about Keith with Impact label. Keith was my brother-in-law, which is my husband's brother.
Oh,
He came in and helped us in the studio when the studio went up, and he was the one that was our favorite of Keith Poppin.
Wow.
And quite a few other ones like that. Keith had a different style. My husband was more or less the softer music, like We'll Be Lovers, Man Pa, Semi Calypso's, like independent Jamaica. But when Keith, my brother-in-law, came to help us out in the studio, and he created the Impact label, he brought a different type. Every producer has a style, and you could actually know the producer by just listening to the record. Like the
true.
technique, you can listen to Duke Reed record, you can listen to Coxsone. All the producers have a style. And if you listen to them as I did, you just, even before you see the record, you know what label is it. And I have a lot of relationship with Bunny Lee too. John Laws, and quite a few others that came to use the studio. Lee Perry, when he rented the studio, he will rent it for a whole week. And he up
Wow.
there experimenting with different sounds. Sometimes he carries some cadence can, some grater, some stick, everything. Everybody said he might be a madman, but he was just experimenting.
Right.
Because we didn't have instruments as we have today. So he had to improvise in a different instrument. If he wants a grater, he would really carry a grater. He had the shock
Wow.
cadence can. He have a piece of stick that he would hit. So he was very creative and advanced of his time.
Well, Randy's and the Impact label definitely have an identifiable sound. When you hear Randy's 7-inch get put on, an Impact 7-inch, right away that that's what it is. And I never articulated this to myself, but I was watching the Studio 17 Lost Tapes documentary that came out not too long ago, and Lee Perry was interviewed, and he said that the other studios would have like a buzz or a hum, but Randy's didn't have any of that. It was just, clean sound. And when he said that, I was like, oh, that's right. Because it's still that warm ambient. It's not clean like, modern digital is clean. It's still really warm and nice, but you don't really hear the studio sound at all, and then the grooves that were happening at Randy's at that time, they're really identifiable.
Yes, and my husband spent a lot of time to create the studio, and he got an engineer from abroad to help him to set up the studio. And that's why we had Johnny Nash and quite a few of American singers and producers came and used the studio. When Johnny Nash came, he'd rent the studio for a whole month, mixing and dubbing and the voiceover. I can see clearly now he completed that song up there.
Wow.
And they stayed a whole month up there experimenting because they like the sound. Somehow they like the sound. And I guess it's really a relaxing mood for them. Nobody bothers them. They just stay and do their things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the environment's a big part.
The environment was good because it was really in the heart of town. It was an exciting time. Musician was all over the place. People were excited having foreigners come. The Rockers movie, when they did it in my store, I tell you, it was so exciting Hosmode, and all the, the actors who were there from once they were just doing the Rockers movie.
That's a great scene. I love
Yeah,
Yes,
that. Yeah,
so
yes.
good.
always in there. You talk about the studio and getting engineers and building it. I want to go more towards the gear. When I was playing the song earlier, it's an organ instrumental, and I'm an organ player, so I have to ask you this. Seeing modern pictures, you see that there's like I'd say it's a 70s Hammond organ. But did you guys go through different, as far as the organ pertains? Because you talk about Randy's, and there's a lot of Jackie Matu stuff in there. That you guys were doing. Warfare. A cool tune it's called Angry Puppy, or 30 60 90 is another name for it. But it's like this really cool organ led song. So just pertaining to the organs, did you guys go through a couple different organs, or was there always just one that stayed put?
Well, my husband liked jazz a lot. And when he came to the States, he would hang out at all of the studios and the jazz clubs. So we really tend to have a lot of instrument, and he's always seeking different types of instrument to get better sound. And we had very good engineer from the States and also in Jamaica that really, he worked a lot on the sound of the studio because he wanted it to be unique and different. And that is why I think most of the musicians came there, because they liked the sound. So he spent a lot of time changing out the instrument, changing out the mics, putting up the barriers for the sound effects. So he did a lot of work in the studio. I didn't go much in the studio because I was always on the counter, as Carter told you, because I run the store.
True.
But I know people came around and used the studio because they felt comfortable. It was fairly cheap that they could go up. Maybe it was like $20 an hour. They would pay down $10. They do their thing, and then when they have the rest of $10, they would come back for their tape. And we started from 16 track to 8 track to 4 track to 2 track. So as the time changes, I think it changes with the time too. When Clive, my stepson Clive, started to do, drum and bass was that time in. So when he met his school friend and they did the Augustus Pablo, that was such a beautiful way of softening the drum and bass by putting another instrument in. And when he did Java, I tell you, it was such a beautiful sound, that freshing, like you're on the East Bank, just
Yeah.
relaxing. It was a sort of relaxing
Totally.
type of music with the melodical.
Wow.
So he did Java, and he did East of the River Nile and Java too. And I love those records because I was in that area where all those records were being born. So I really love that sound myself. And Charlene Temple, and quite a few of the, Keith did a lot of the middle of the road records, which he did. All of those, what do you call it? More, not really lovers rock, but just nice music like Alton Ellis, Jimmy London, A Little Love,
Jimmy London. Oh, Jimmy London, A Little Love. That is an
and
amazing
Bridge Over
tune.
Troubled Waters.
Wow.
Well, all those are the Impact
Right.
label.
Oh
So
yeah.
from the three persons that you said, Vincent was my husband that did a softer semi calypso, and it was Keith with the Impact label, and it was Clive with the drum and bass with different mixture. So they all had three different sounds.
I've got my copy of Jimmy London, A Little Love right here.
Oh yes, on the Impact label, yes. And
Yes.
we created a lot of labels. So when you get my book, you will see I put all the labels in front. We had
Wow.
about 25 labels, different labels,
Wow.
the
depending on the producer and depending on the song.
Right. Right.
Oh,
my
that's cool.
my
Little
wife
Love.
and I sang A Little Love at a wedding one time together.
Oh.
A little
Yes.
harmony version. And so the flip side, as I was showing everybody, is a little version by the Impact All Stars. Where the Impact All Stars, I'm sure there was some changeover of musicians, but was it largely the same musicians playing in the Impact All Stars?
Yes, yeah, it was the same musician, but sometimes you add more to
Right.
flavor it up. It's just a version of the song, but
Hmm.
sometimes you mix it a little different. It could
Right.
be the same musician, but they would put, more mixing and more organ or more whatever instrument they wanted to mix. The mixing of the record is a great part of the recording too, because you can have a beautiful recording, but if you don't mix it right,
Right.
it doesn't comes out right. So the mixing have a lot to do with it. It's like when you get dressed, you have to put on your tie and to make it really spicy.
The
So the
the
mixing
beautiful
have a lot to do with the
right.
music.
Those Impact All Stars 7 inches. When you listen to the version side, it's almost like it doesn't need too much dub. It's like the rhythm is just doing something. Like you were saying before that it's such an identifiable sound. A lot of those, one of my favorite things about those Impact 7 inches is the version side, and you don't even need too many effects. You just take the vocals out and let the rhythm
Yeah,
happen, and there'll be, like you said, a little bit of different mix. Maybe
yeah.
maybe the scratch guitar is being emphasized a little more, but it's just such a like sticky and warm but still clean sound. And so I guess what I was asking is, was it the same musicians on the sessions, even on the A side, the group that comprised the Impact All Stars? Was it usually the same drummer and bass and guitarist?
Well, I change them sometime, but I think my brother-in-law Keith had a special set of musicians that he uses. But if one musician drop out, you'll just get another musician because there's so much musicians,
Right.
playing all different type of instruments. So if you would want one musician and you can't find him, you just substitute it, or within an hour they're there.
Or
Because
they're you.
everybody's looking out for a job.
Yeah.
It's their life, it's their bread and butter. So they're always hanging out to get a job.
Wow.
That's a trip. I have to ask you about because if someone were to say, okay, name me the females at the time that were involved on the business side of things with reggae, I think of yourself and I think of Sonia Pottinger. Did you guys share a bond? Like, did you guys both know, okay, we're kind of, we're flipping the script. We're going against the grain here. We're incorporating, changing the women's role, because there are female musicians at this point, from ska all the way. But on the business side of things and the behind the scenes stuff, did you have a relationship with Sonia at all?
Yes, yes, and I went down to her funeral when she passed on, and we knew her kids. Yes, we bought record from her because she was a couple blocks down from us. I think Sonia Pottinger and myself was the only two business people in the music industry. I mean, you have like Judy Mott and Marcia Griffiths and Bob Marley's wife, Rita Marley, but they were singers and backup singers
Right.
until they came together and they make the I3's LP, but not much women. The wives were there, Mr. Dodd's wife was there, and they all had wives, but they didn't take part in the business. I guess they were just like home, stay at home. But I was the one that was behind the counter. My husband was the social level person, the artist, but I was the one selling the music. So I learned a lot about the music, the names, the artists, the producers, and they're constant in the store.
Mm.
So when they would make a recording and they would cut a dub and they would bring it downstairs to play, that's how we know what's good and what not good,
That's
depending
cool.
on the reaction of the people. But the hits are made in the street. The sound system is what makes the hit.
Right. And see, I've never thought of that, right? Because me and
Yeah.
Devin always talk about there's such a unique format process that goes on in Jamaica, is that you can cut a record and play it at the dance halls and kind of gauge what
Yes.
songs are going to be the hits. But now you're telling me that all you had to do is run it downstairs and play it in the record store and get a
And you
vibe.
see a good reaction, yes. That's how
That's
they
dope right
gauge
there.
them. Or sometimes you listen to the record and you say, no, you need to go mix it again. It doesn't sound
Oh
right.
my
Or
gosh, that's
let me
crazy.
just play it very soft and let me hear all the instrument. I usually test the record by just making them very soft so that I can hear all the instrument. Nothing is, unless it's something that you really want a percussion to comes up. But I usually test the record by making them very flat and soft, and then I listen to them.
Hmm.
Because I used to listen to them too, and sometimes reject them, say, go mix it over again. Doesn't
Wow.
sound good. go, go
Wow.
bring up more instrument. Go make the drum, more drums or something. Because,
That's
my ears was very, very sensitive to music because I listened to it every day
Yeah.
from 9 till 8. Every day I listen to music. So,
And you
um,
as and
and I
as
want to tell you one more
yes,
thing.
please.
The vinyl CD cannot touch the vinyl because when you play a vinyl, it is so different. It's like going to a concert.
Mm-hmm.
It has all it has all the instrument that you can hear so clearly and crispy, and it does something to you. It makes inside of you feel different. I don't know, but listen to a CD and listen to a vinyl, it's much different.
I agree.
If nobody if because I was born in vinyl, I can know the difference. But if somebody's younger than me but doesn't know the difference, they would think the CDs is the best. But when you listen to a vinyl, it's quite a different sound to the
Es-
ears.
Especially in a situation like you were in, where the music's being made, upstairs, recorded straight to tape, and then pressed to a physical piece of material, the vinyl, and then brought downstairs. It never touched anything digital. It never even left the physical space you were in before you heard
Right.
it. So I mean, yeah,
Yes.
there's definitely something special that you can't duplicate digitally there.
Right.
I think you're right about that. And you were mentioning, you providing feedback on the mixes. I mean, not only do you obviously have a great ear and a sensitive ear, but you were probably more in tune than anybody working at the studio to what the people wanted to hear, because
Right.
even the musicians, even the producers upstairs making the music, they're not seeing as the reaction as much as you are. So you probably became quickly very very in tune to what was going to be a crowd
Yes.
pleaser.
And used to say to my husband, "So why don't you make record like Coxon and Duke Reed? I like those records. You're making these
oh
stuff
no.
records."
Oh
But
no.
afterward, I realized that his record lasts longer because when I went to Spain and I hear David Radigan put on some of my husband's record, like Evening News or Don't Stay Out Late or Man, I said, "Oh my God." The people were just jumping up for joy. I said, "See that, Vincent? He wasn't wrong. He was making music that will last a long, 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 long time. And these kids are only 15, 16, but yet they're playing records that was made 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds as sweet as the day it was made."
Agreed.
So
Well,
that's one thing with the record also. In the music, don't care how old the music is, when you hear it for the first time, it gives you the same effect as it was made 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean that special feeling that you described with the Coxon production or Studio One and Duke Reed. I mean, you cannot. I get that same feeling with Randy's
Me
stuff. I
too.
mean, it's just different flavors, in my opinion, but the magic is consistent. Like I said, I'm a big Jackie Matu fan, so to hear his stuff outside of Studio One is a rarity. Because he has his journey that when he went to Canada and everything, but the one place that I know I could hear some Jackie Matu stuff that wasn't Studio One was Randy's. Some of
Yes.
those
Jackie
and
Mittoo was a very he come there all the while because he loved the studio and he liked the organ and he likes the sound. So he's always recording there. A very good friend of ours too.
Mm.
And most of Keith's recording, Jackie Mittoo, you got because they were very good friends. So
nice.
you'll find out that a lot of musicians was very comfortable there too. So you get the best out of them, the best authentic sound, because most of the records are just free. They just play. There's no notes, nothing. They're just playing from their heart and soul.
Hmm.
So it's got to be something very special.
Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time that you thought a record was really gonna, people were gonna like it, and you put it on the store and it just didn't do very well, or the opposite, where you thought, I don't know about this, and then people kind of went crazy over it? Do you remember any specific records like that?
Well, when we did Fatty Boom Boom, it was just a normal record. But when people have been calling us from England, so they want to have this record, they want to buy this record. They were so excited about the record. To us, it was just, and even some of Bob Marley records, just an ordinary record because everybody in Jamaica sings.
Yeah.
We're gifted
Right.
with music. When we're happy, we sing. When we're sad, we sing. When we're working, we sing. We sing for everything. So everybody just a singer. We we sing for a living. We sing for joy. We sing when we're happy. We sing when we're sad. When getting married, we sing. When you go to a funeral, we sing. So everybody sings. I guess we're gifted with
Oh yeah,
music,
definitely.
musicians.
So Fatty Boom Boom was a surprise to you.
Yes, nobody knew it was going to sell as much, and everybody called us from England. You say you have a hit, and then I said, my husband, ever made the phone ring from England? They want to have the singer, they want to have the amount of record, and it was very surprising to us that it an overnight hit. I'm sure when Chris Blackwell brought Millie Small, my boy Lollipop, he didn't know he was going to make a hit either.
Right.
We just was naive and just riding on pure joy. We didn't even know reggae was going to be this long. They were just doing it
Wow.
for fun. We were very naive, but we know we had great musicians and singers. So I guess we were born that way. We're gifted for music and musicians
Oh, definitely.
and
Roger,
sunshine and food.
Oh, jeez.
we talk about it on this show all the time. It's just it never ceases to amaze us the output and the amount of great music made from such a small place in such a small period of time. I mean, I know Jamaican music's been going on for decades and decades, but if you just zero in on, from ska to maybe the end of Roots, so like, 20-year period from like
Yes,
1960 to
20-year
1980,
period.
let's say, that the amount of amazing music to the point where you can spend 20, 30, 40 years really searching for all the rare stuff, and still next week someone's going to play me something that I've never heard before that's just such a great song. And it's a testament to what you're saying about something magical about Jamaica, and the way music is in everyone. It's just amazing, and I'm
Well,
thankful for it. Just as somebody who loves reggae music, I'm so thankful that I just keep hearing
well,
new
in the
records.
60s and 70s, you would almost have 15, 20 records come out a day. So you
Jeez.
have all the studios and all the producers, an hour can make a record. So you have a lot. If you have so eight session for the day, that's eight music coming out. So
Right.
records were being coming out like eating bread. They were just making them just like that. So much producers, so much singers. They just make record, make record, make record. You have to catch up. And most of the records during that time, yes, you have some hits, but the smaller producers, sometimes they do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 records and they didn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
But now I realize it's their turn now, because those rare music that didn't sell too much, people want those records now, because maybe the time wasn't right for them. You had big labels, so they didn't have a choice. So they would make records. One producer, every time he come from the studio, said, Miss Pat, this is the hit now. This is the hit. Maybe when he came back, maybe 3 or 4 sold. And then he went up and in the studio again. And this is the hit now, Miss Pat. This is the hit. And sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 records they make, it never hit. But the tide has turned, and now I see some of their records are being asked about and being played, and
Right.
it's rare and scarce.
Oh yeah.
And people are now embracing them.
Well, I could imagine at that point, the bar is so high as far as quality, right? So you guys are it's just there's so much quality that the tunes that we look back at, that people like me and Devin, because we collect records, you can give us the worst or whatever would be considered not a good record back in the day, and we hear it now, being fans of Jamaican music, being fans of the characteristics of the studios, and we look at it as gold, even though it might not have been a hit record at the moment. So,
And even if
yeah.
the A side maybe is, you don't love it, you could always flip it over and
Hear the dub version.
and hear the dub, or the just the straight up instrumental. And nowadays it's just like, yeah, you're right. It really, the tide has turned. I never thought about it that way. That at that time, some of those songs just weren't. Were kind
The
of
smaller
floppy.
producers didn't have enough money to stay in the studio, so they just take an hour and make a record.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have much time to mix it properly and do different version. But the thing about it, why the version side comes about is that when we had those big 78, they call it disco. There
Mm-hmm.
weren't anything on the other side. It was just one side. The other side was just blank. So the version came in very handy because when they make the first side as a vocal, they just take out the vocal from the track and just make the version. That's all music. So the version was really having something on the second side of the record,
Mm-hmm.
and it became the version. And
And
then
and
after the version, they started to put DJs in the version, and they started to mix it different from different, maybe drum and bass, because from a live session you can have the drum and bass, you can have the apava, just DJs in it. You can do a lot of things when you have just the raw music.
right.
You can do a lot of things with it, and that's why they're so creative, because they take one rhythm and make it into all different types of records.
Right. And
So that's how it starts. That's how it
and
started.
the Impact label was, to me, maybe my favorite label doing just that. And you're talking about this right now, and I don't know if you remember this record, and I can't think of the name of it, but it was a rhythm that Randy's used a lot, and there was one instrumental version that came out where the rhythm starts, and then you hear the engineer say like, wait, quiet, and they turn it off, and they start
Yes.
breaking down, like, or and there's a little skit happening where someone
Yes.
like comes to beg a job so you know that one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yes. And that was a mistake, but it sounds so good when it came down. They started the session, and somebody was talking, and they said, "Stop that music," and it sounded so well. They said, "Let it stay," and it become an effect. I remember
That's
that. I
stuff like
remember
that.
that record very clearly, because we didn't want to take out that sound, because it sounds so good when it came down to test it. I said, let it stay as it is, because it was a little refreshing to hear a voice coming in. I mean, a voice that would say, "Stop the session, man," or "Don't do it like that." So we just kept it in.
It's one of my favorite. And he starts telling, someone comes by to ask for a job, and the engineer starts saying, well, I'm going to show you how to operate, and start showing, okay, listen to the drums and listen to the bass. And if anyone wants to check it out, I can't think of the name of the song, but I know it's on a Blood and Fire compilation called Forward the Bass Impact
Yeah.
All Stars. If anyone wants to check it out, it's on there. It's just one of my. I was playing it for Roger recently, just because
Right.
even nowadays, as somebody trying to engineer their own reggae music, it's like a little tutorial. They show you get to hear the drums, and then he brings the bass in, and then he brings the guitar, and you hear how the two guitars are on the same track, just sounding just so specifically. You can tell it's Impact. You can tell it's Randy's just by
Yeah, well,
listening to
we
that.
had 16 track, then we have 8 track, then we had 4 track, where you could, each of the musician played on a track, and one of the
Right.
tracks, so you could always take it out, lower it, or mix them together.
Yeah.
That was the beauty of the record, because when you do it from live, you can do a lot of things. The mixing is very important.
Mm-hmm.
The mixing is what really give you the effect, because when you have an 8 track and you have 8 musicians playing, and you leave one for the voice, you can do a lot of things with those 7 tracks.
Right.
Right.
So I think doing a live recording is one of the greatest thing that can happen for reggae music, because it's not only the musicians. They can play on one track, the organ on one track, the guitar on one track, the drum and bass on one, and then you can mix them up. And the mixing is what's the most important. We
Mm-hmm.
had an engineer, RLT.
Right.
He was
LT.
there 24/7 mixing,
Yeah.
and his ears was just good as mine, because a lot of time we go up there and talk.
Did you guys run into any complications with you playing music downstairs as they were recording upstairs, or was that never an issue?
No, it wasn't. My husband was so particular in making the recording studio soundproof. Different layers of the wall, and the padding, and what do you call those things that you put put to keep the sound in? Was
Dividers or
the
separation. Yeah.
dividers, and it was padded. These things that you move them around,
Mm-hmm.
like a partition.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a lot of those that keep the sound round and keep the sound in, depending on
Gotcha.
how you want the sound. So the studio, He took a lot of pains in making the studio unique. Even though we were playing record downstairs, recording could still be going on, and it didn't affect us.
Wow.
That's
It's
awesome.
very padded.
That's awesome. And what year did because I want to get into when you guys moved to New York. What year did you guys close down the studio? First of all, what year was it? And then did you guys have to, obviously you're taking off to New York. What happened at that point to rent to Studio 17 and Randy's Records?
Well, my husband came 2 years before I did, in 1950, I think 1975. And I stayed back and run the studio and the store, together with Keith, my brother-in-law. Clive, my stepson, and my son Chris came up with his dad in 1975. And I came up 1977. And the studio was running still with a relative of mine. But most of the equipment and all like that, we didn't do much recording at that time anymore. We just left because of the crime and the unrest that was going on. But I did stay for 2 or 3 years to run the studio and the store. And then I came up in 1977 and start all over again, 20 years backward.
Wow. Wow. What was that like to start over?
Very hard. Because when I came, they knew a few artists, but they only knew Bob Marley.
Right.
But I took all the small producers' record, bad, good, and indifferent, because I said to my son one day, when they were selling, we do telemarketing and we deliver the records in Brooklyn and the Bronx. And he said to me, Mom, they're sending back the records. I said, take it back. Give them what they can sell, because no record is ever bad. Sometimes it came out too early, or sometimes for whatever reason they can't sell that type of record. So just take it back, because no record is ever bad. It's just the right timing for that record. So I'm happy to know that you're liking all those old ska record now. And
we love it. We love all the rarities.
Randy's All-Star.
Oh,
So
yeah, for sure.
It makes a 50-year turnaround.
I wanted to ask you, so you're in the New York days, there's my brother who we mentioned, Patrick. He has this record and he let me borrow it, and he wanted me to ask you about it in case you knew anything. It came out, it says manufactured by Chin Randy of Brooklyn, New York. So I assume it's in the New York days. And it's by a group called Dean and His Celebrities, and it's called You Only Live Twice, and it's not reggae, it's calypso. And he thinks the band is from Trinidad, and he wanted to know if you happen to remember here. It's Dean and His Celebrities, You Only Live Twice. And he wanted to know if you happen to remember.
Chin Randy's was my brother-in-law. He was the one we used to export the records for, maybe 5 years before we came up. So he was the link to Jamaica when we would export the records to him. Some records, we didn't even release them in Jamaica. We sent up the tape, and depending on what he thinks he could sell, then he press it here. So Chin Randy's is my brother-in-law, and they were here before us. But when we came up, we had a more variety of all different labels and different types of music, because we not only had a soca, we went into soca and did soca. We have Reggae Gold and Soca Gold and Strictly the Best. So we brought up more producers' record, and we brought up calypsos, lovers rock, roots and culture, and dancehall. So we brought up the whole genre of all reggae music. While up here they were more selective. But as time gone, we introduced all different types: Gregory Isaac, Sizzlers, and all those, Dennis Brown. And then they start to catch on the other artists. But there were a few Jamaican stores. But the bigger white company like Rounder and Heartbeat and Alligator, they usually just import the English reggae. Most of the English reggae. I mean, Brass Record did a few of the popular ones, but I would say the others just do the English, like English reggae.
So when you started doing the soca and more calypso at that time, you were really expanding on that Randy's Trinidad connection that had started with Lord Creator, right?
Yes, and we did when we every year we go to the different islands where they have the carnival, and we try to select the best records that won the competition, and we call it Soca Gold. There were quite a few calypso stores here, like Charlie's and Bees and Striker, but they didn't sell each. They only sell their products. But
Mm-hmm.
what I did is buy from all of them, and I take one record and sell the other one. Just like I did in Jamaica, I would take these record, buy from him, and sell Charlie's, and I said Charlie's and sell to him because I was just in a business. I wasn't biased. I was
Right.
just selling music. So we extended our genre to do soca music. But at first, when I heard soca music, when I first came, it was so hard to understand because I didn't know the different countries and where the artists came from. I had to
Right.
study it.
Right.
I had to study it very hard because all of them sound alike to me. But we did overcome that
Nice.
and created Soca Gold.
It's a great series. I wanted to ask. Recently, we lost some icons of Jamaican music. U-Roy and Toots, and most
Bunny
recently Bunny
Wailers and
Wailer.
Bunny
And I
Lee.
wanted to ask you. I saw you posted a picture of you and Bunny, and maybe you could talk a little bit about your relationship with Bunny.
Bunny and myself went way back 50 years ago. And a couple of years ago, we united back, because when I came here, I was just concentrating on the business and selling and producing. So we sort of lost contact. But a couple of years ago, we meet up again.
Hmm.
And last year, I think it's in January, we gave him an award. And he was such a beautiful person. He was just so mellow and nice. And he remembers me and he respects me and I respected him. And it was so sad that he passed away, a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in his latter days, he was such a beautiful soul. He was so kind and loving and just beautiful person to be with because he stayed for a month and we went out for dinner and lunch and so on. And I tell you, it was my happiest time with him. And he felt that bond to me too. He felt the bond that we had because I was I would say one of the first women producers of music with distributing and selling and producing. So he respected me and I respected him. And our friendship was just beautiful. So I want to give a shout out to his family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so blessed to have known him in the end. And my condolence to the family. And his music will ever live on. He was very special to me too. I mean, I know Bob Marley was a was a great one for breaking the records, but Bob Marley used to come to my store too.
I
And
wanted to ask you about that. Yeah, what was the and so did Peter. So did Peter, right? Peter was
Peter Tosh too.
Peter. There's a tune. What is it? I think it's not even a vocal tune. I think Peter's on the organ.
Or melodica or something like that.
It's called Whistling Jane,
Oh, okay.
Whistling Jane.
and it's like an up tempo version of the song "What Does It Take," which it's an old soul song, but Alton Ellis does a great version of "What Does It Take,"
Yeah.
and it's just like this. There's whistling going on. It's called Whistling Jane, but
Well,
there's also
I would
organ.
see I would see that particular to him because when he came to do his recording, Peter was very strict and stern. He would come in. His time was booked from 10 to 12. Come in on time, go upstairs, do his things, pay his money, and just go. He
Wow.
didn't hang out. Bob came around and he went up to the studio with Lee Perry. And in the end, when he used to be by himself, he usually passed around to look for his friend because he loved to play football. And he would ask everyone, "Did you see Skill Code? Did you see my friend?" And as he found his friend, he's gone. Didn't hang out either. He was very quiet and shy. Not what you see Bob Marley on stage. It's quite different. Very
Wow.
shy and quiet and very humble. Very nice person too.
That's
I
a trip.
think Peter Tosh did "You Can't Fool Me Again" at
You
Randy's,
can't
I
fool
think.
me again.
It's one of the
Yes.
best. That's
Yes.
when I think of the Impact label, I always picture that right away. That seven
Yes.
inch.
Yes. Peter and my brother-in-law get along very well to Keith. They run a lot of jokes, and but as I said, he was a very strict producer. But when he made it, Can't Fool Me Again, it was really, it was really like a cursing on other people, you know. So most of the songs, you know, it is very humorous if you know the politics and you know the competition. They sing the words, they use words in the song to curse
Mm-hmm.
indirectly. You know,
Mm.
who's the better producer, who's why, you know, Prince Buster really made one about the blackhead China man because Derek Morgan used to sing for Prince Buster. Then he went over and sing for Beverly's and he was a little upset. So they had a tiff cursing each other in the songs.
Yep.
So, you know, they use the words in the song to really curse each other. So we don't use gun, we use words. We
Clancy
use
Eccles too. Clancy Eccles jumped in that whole. I mean, a lot of people did, right? I mean, the whole feud concept goes. We were talking, you know, as it moves on to Iroy and
yeah,
Jazzbo and
Yeah, I wrote in Jazzbo.
yeah,
yes.
the originators of the feud. I would imagine though, it just kind of stays within the music. Would you agree, or was it an actual feud of outside of the studio? There's a confrontations.
I don't think it's much today, as you know, because they all have their own space. But
Hmm.
there in those early times, there was a lot of competition. Who's the better DJ? Who's the better mixer? Who's the better producer? So that was a feud because remember, you know, we didn't have a music before, so everybody's climbing up that hill
True.
to do Jamaican music. It was a big competition to who's the best producer, who can have the best singers, who have the best musicians, who have the best mixers. So it really was a competition in every sense.
That's a great point. I never looked at it like that. You know, you have this genre that's constantly, the definition of it is constantly changing from ska to rock steady to roots reggae and whatnot, and you have all these producers that want to be at the forefront of that. You know, I
Yes.
never really looked at it like that. The competition level is through the roof.
And
I'm
one
sure.
thing I could reflect back and see when the beat changes and you have like certain type of music, you see everybody. If you have like a soft tune going on, you hear a lot of soft tunes.
Mm.
When the beat changes to drum and bass, you hear a lot of drum and bass because everybody's in that genre. You know, like the dancehall now, you hear everybody doing dancehall. To listen to when the beat is changing because when you're selling on the counter, like if you have drum and bass music playing and they make a hit, like the Pablo records, then you hear a lot of those records coming around. Then when the beat changes again to another type of music, then you see a lot of the musicians and the producers start to have that, whether they version it or they make another one similar. But it's really, it's a cycle that if you stay long enough, you'll know the cycle of what's going on.
Mm.
As the beat changes, the dance changes, the producer changes, the singers changes, the musician changes. It's really a
Right.
cycle.
So I imagine then it feels pretty nice to have an artist like John Nine, who you work with, who of course has her own original style, but there's obviously some throwback. You know, she's paying homage to that golden era in terms of the musical production being more rootsy and really reggae. That must feel nice to see that cycle kind of coming back that way.
Yes. Yes, I met Jana when I went to Rotterdam in Spain. And I was so taken up with her. We talked a long time. And she said she was surprised at me too, a Jamaican Chinese talking patois.
Mm.
And, you know, Bonnie Lee took me on the big stage and I had a fabulous time. I never know people like reggae as much as I see it in my ears and eyes, how much they love reggae. Because one whole week of reggae, they had different, you know, different type of sound system playing in different type of, it's like it would be like maybe 10 acres of just music and musician and and people dancing and singing, and the whole town was decorated with Rastafarian flags and Jamaican flags. I've never realized that Jamaican music was so well loved. And these were like 15, 16, 17 playing these records.
Right.
I was, and then when I went to Cuba and see how much they love Bob Marley, that was another eye. My eye was, how did you know so much about Bob Marley? They knew about his songs, the lyrics, the words, his hair, his culture. I said, oh my God, they studied the artist like
There
it,
there
it,
is no other genre if you look at like by the foot, how
Right.
small Jamaica is compared to the influence the genre has on the world. I mean, you can talk about American blues, American rock. I mean, there is no other genre in the world, pound for pound, that
and
has as
we're
much
always
influence.
changing. We're always changing as time go on. You have new singers, new
Mm-hmm.
musicians. We're always changing.
New
And the beauty
styles.
about it is that my generation and sometimes second and third generation, they're all in music. Because people might think it's a big, but it's not really, it's just a small. The island is so small, everybody knows each other. The kids grow up with each other. Their kids, not in, I mean, somewhere in music, but not necessarily a musician, but they could be a songwriter or they can, do
Mm-hmm.
something else. So it's like it goes on and on and on from generation to generations.
And
Everybody know each other.
and that has to be the small size has to be a factor in what we were talking about earlier about why so much music was being made because in a place like the US it's so big that you're not going to be able to the
Get,
big studios one might be in Memphis and the other one's in LA and the other one's in Brooklyn and so to have a situation where everything was pretty concentrated and people from all over whether you lived in the country or wherever you knew that like oh if I have a song I know where to go and hang out and if I don't get to record it here maybe this maybe Jack Ruby will like it if Coxon doesn't like it and to have it all gathered together in one little space it must have really been a big factor in that.
yes, because at one time I think we have at least 14, 15, 16 studios because everybody had a studio. Because everybody wanted to produce their own record because they have different styles and different beats, and so it was an exciting time, both for the producers and the musicians and the singers. It's just like something new and exciting, and we were so naive. We just and pure luck. We traveled with pure luck.
Well, it's more
So
than luck. I mean,
and,
there's just
and,
so many.
and creativity,
Yeah,
creativity,
yeah.
and when you don't have an instrument, you improvise something to create a sound.
I mean, unabashed creativity, I would say, because like you were mentioning the tune where you guys heard the talking, and you said no, leave it in. I mean, just to have that creativity and the kind
Hmm.
of courage to just say like no, leave that in. That's fine. There's not in American music that wouldn't really happen. Like they'd say okay, that's cute, but do that again, and
Yes.
it's
And it can't be do perfect.
mm-hmm.
Creativity is not being perfect.
Right.
With the flaws can come in. Somebody used to say to me, "So Miss Pat, why does some of the record have so much scratches?" I say, "Well, that's the extras you get in the record. You get extra.
That's good.
The record may have
Yeah.
damage or
So,
cracks the
so
record. You stop a little frying." And I said, "No, that's the
Yeah.
extras. You're getting it.
say, see, I didn't charge you for those extras.
I didn't
So
charge
you
you for
got you
those
got you
extras."
got that. Yeah, I mean, I would say you're just the ultimate taste maker. Out of all the music that you've heard that's gone in your ears, and you have a gauge over. Even if you had to predict whatever the next stage is in Jamaican music, I mean, I can't think of a better person than to
Mm-hmm.
go to Miss Pat and go, because you're just this, the history of Jamaican music. You've heard it all, going through ska up until, and I'm sure that's helped. That helped big time going to New York, right? Because New York wasn't, you had to work. It was kind of like climbing uphill, wasn't it? As far as getting
Yes,
people to,
yes, because I had to teach the culture and
right?
educate them and all the different types of music we have. and introduce new singers, introduce new, I had to do a lot of work. So when is a customer service is one of my biggest specialty, because when a shop opens, I try to teach them what I've learned. I ask them who is around you, what type of client you have, what I ask them everything to teach them how to buy.
Hmm.
And that's how I get a lot of customer, because I'm not only selling them, but I'm teaching them their business too. Because I said, tell me who's buying the record, what age group, what
Hmm.
nationality. So I try to sell them what they can sell, because if they do good in their business, I will do good too, because they will be a loyal customer to me.
Hmm.
And at one
Wow.
time, I shipped records all over the country. At one time, I have over 600 customers.
Wow.
So we just ship and ship and ship. And I met one of my customers a year ago when I came to California.
Hmm.
And he said to me, Miss Pat, when I usually buy, he has a sound system, when I usually buy my records from you, I'm so anxious to open the box because you put so much goodies in it. You put pamphlet, you put newspaper, everything in music you put in the box. He's just like, he was so excited about meeting me. Then when I went to Mexico, man carry a reggae gold or a soca gold, what it was, I don't know. Maybe about 15 years old. And he said, Miss Pat, I want you to sign this for me. This is how old this record is, but I want you to sign it.
Of
It was like
course.
one of the series was like not 15 years old, but he still kept it. And that's why vinyl will never, because when you do a streaming, you don't own it.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy a 45 or a LP, you own it. You can read it, you can turn it around, you can feel it, you can pass it on to the next generation.
And for me, I just love knowing that it's
It's
beside
tangible.
yeah, and besides just the music on it, it's like holding a little archive of like I like to look
Yes.
at it and think like, oh, maybe Miss Pat, physically sold this actual 7 inch that I'm holding to whoever bought it in 1975, and now it's
Yeah.
just made its way until it's here in my record collection. I love, I just love like holding my records sometimes, just
Yes.
thinking about that kind of thing. And yeah, you can't get that with a Spotify stream.
Yeah, that's true. You own it and you can also pass it on. You can trade it.
Yeah.
You can trade one record with a friend.
Hmm.
Can you trade me? Or if you have two of the same thing, you trade one. So a
Use
lot
it
of
as a
things.
pillow. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot
No,
of
no,
stuff you could do.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could tape it. Well, Miss Pat, it's been an honor to talk to you. Before we let you go, we have a segment we like to do called rapid fire questions, and it's just a little fun thing we do. Ask you some quick questions, and you could just the first thing that comes to your mind, you could answer it. So I'm gonna
Little
go
game
first here.
show.
Yeah,
Go for it.
what's the very last thing you listened to, like this morning or whatever? The last song you were listening to.
Actually, I did so much Zooming today. I did two before yours.
Oh
Oh
So
wow.
wow.
my mind was concentrated in all the things that other people want to ask me. So
Okay,
I didn't
yesterday
listen
then.
to any music today.
Yesterday.
Yesterday, what did I listen to? I don't even remember. I don't remember. Maybe a whiter shade of pale.
Ooh, there you go.
Oh, that
Very
is
nice.
good. Out of
Yes.
nowhere.
Pat Kelly's
Yeah.
version. That's
This is such a unique next question because you are the person that's selling the records. But what's the first album that you remember buying?
The first albums I remember buying back home,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
maybe the Drifters or Percy Sledge or Jim Reeves. American record, I usually buy one each from West Indian record and sell it. And when I sell it, I go back and buy one more record.
Oh,
If
nice.
you see my little store that I had, if you see the book, if you see that little store, that's the
Hmm.
width of the store. And when three people came in, it was full, full, full. We
Wow.
have to wait till when one come out and then one goes. That's how small the
Wow.
store was.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Jeez.
So, you mentioned outside of the studio there'd be people selling food and street vendors and stuff. What was your favorite Jamaican food at that time that you could just walk out on the street and get?
Fruits. Lot of
Fruits.
fruits. A lot of fruits was selling on the sidewalk. Because when the artists are there were people cooking food, selling fresh fruits, vegetables, and things. So fruits was the easiest one for her to buy a banana or a grape or an apple. We didn't have grape. It was a banana or a mango or
Mm-hmm.
an orange. So most of the musicians would stay on the sidewalk and have their lunch patties. Cause we had a little restaurant selling patties and soda. So when they come in to buy a patty and soda, they would sit down and listen to the music. It was unique, and I don't think people knew that a record store could have a restaurant inside where they would sit down and listen to music and have a patty and a soda.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah,
Yes,
totally.
makes sense now. Yes,
Okay.
but then there was those are new ideas.
Right.
Having a one
Yeah.
stop was a new concept
It's that creativity.
because they didn't they compete with each other. But if you have a third person not competing, you could always buy from everybody else.
See,
Because
that's the biggest lesson I'm gonna take from. Gee whiz. I mean, I think that's a testament to your success too. I mean, going all the way back to when you said that you flipped the script as far as the strategy. All right, I'm not going to just sell my productions. I'm going to buy off everyone else and be the one-stop shop. I mean, that's just setting the rules right there. And I think that is
And we're gonna sell food and
if we're going to sell
yes,
food, I mean, geez.
and the beauty about it is that one producer doesn't have hits all the while. So if you have 10 producers, you have hits all the while.
True.
I don't have the hits all the while. Coxon doesn't. Every producer have a time. At one time it was John Laws, one time it was Bunny Lee. So everybody has a time. So if you have all the producers label, you have hits all the while selling.
That's so
So
true.
beautiful.
So here's the next question. Out of either movie, which one do you prefer? The Harder They Come or Rockers?
I think rockers,
Nice.
Me too.
Yeah.
because it show why the street scene, the everyday people. My husband was very sociable, and he didn't shun people from using the studio. Even they came barefoot. You want to go play music, go play music. We pray
Wow.
for them to make a hit that one day they can come back and pay us.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's our last question here. What's the last live concert you attended?
Last live concert. The one that I can remember is when I went to Radio City Music Hall. And it's a concert, but it's in a park. It's a summer stage in New York City. And we did it for 2 years. We did 35th anniversary and we did it for our 40th anniversary. And to see how happy everybody just get together when the musicians are playing. It was even raining at one time and they had their umbrella and dancing. It was such a beautiful thing. So I really enjoy seeing people being happy and knowing that they're listening to my music. And the greatest joy I have is like when I'm driving on Eastern Parkway. It's a big highway and you have traffic here. And it's in the summer and they turn down their glass and you would hear music flying here, and 99% of the time it's my music. And I say, oh my God, this is just like living in Jamaica because you
Wow.
hear so much music coming out of the car speakers. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. And
That
then
must.
and then when I got my award, it's a very memorable time. I got the A2IM Music Award for Independent, and I was the first female that got that award.
Wow. That's
Well
big.
deserved. Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy for my journey so far.
Well, so are we because you've given us some of our favorite music. Like I've said many times on this show and before, the Randy's and Impact All Stars. There's nothing like it. It really is, a crucial part of the Jamaican music story, and we're all very thankful that you did what you did and continue to do what you do, and that you came on the show with us. And before we let you go, can let everyone know, please, where they can go get your book, because this book, I can't wait for mine to come. It's really an
Well,
amazing thing.
yeah, they can get my book on Amazon. Today it's released, the 17th. Then all the VP retail stores, and also VP VNPAT Foundation.org. I've created a foundation strictly for music. I've been doing a lot of things for many years. So this year we have created a Vincent and Pat Foundation. And my reason for it is to help the musicians, the singers, the upcoming musicians. And I really use my resources now to help and to inspire new musicians and new singers. So that's my goal now, to really give back and to help young musicians and to give the youth a chance to showcase their voice and to do whatever they want to do. But it's all about music and music inspiring, music education, and all the events that we're having to embrace the culture and the music.
Well, we really encourage everyone to go pick up the book. I know it's amazing with pictures and stories, and like we were talking about, just with vinyl, these physical things that you can have. It's so much nicer than going online and looking up information about Randy's. To have the coffee table book.
Yeah,
Miss Pat. I can't wait for mine to come. So everybody, make sure you get it, and you'll not only be supporting Miss Pat, but you'll be supporting the foundation that she just mentioned. Which is a really beautiful thing. Miss Pat, thank you so much for coming on the show with us.
And I want to thank you too, Roger and Devin, for this beautiful conversation and having me here to talk about my journey. And I want to thank all the reggae lovers all over the world that's listening in. Thank you, the musicians, the artists, my staff, my friends, and all who contribute to the music. So thank you very much for having me, and I wish you all the best. May you continue to play reggae music and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
Goodbye,
all
Miss
right.
Pat.
Thank you.
Miss Pat.
And,
right.
and please say hello to Carter. Carter's the one that gave me the connection with you. So thank you very much, Carter.
Thank you, Carter. Oh, he's listening. Thank you, Carter. Big up, Carter.
Big
Thank
up,
you, Miss
Carter.
Pat.
All right. And
Be
I'm
well.
sure
We'll
you'll
talk to
get
you
your-
soon.
I'm
Can't
sure,
wait to-
I'm sure I'm going to
Miss
send
Pat.
you the book real soon. And I hope you
yeah.
enjoy it as much as how you enjoy. And I'm going to give you a tip. I'll be putting out a new box set, strictly Miss Pat's music.
Wow.
So selection from me.
That
It's coming out in the summer.
Well, then we got to have you back on.
oh for
two.
sure.
Round
We
two
have
to talk
to.
about that.
Yes.
There's no doubt we do.
Here
Yeah.
are most
All
of
right.
the 50s, 60s, and 17 songs. So I'm sure you'll enjoy that.
Oh man, can't wait for that. And I'll be saving my copies until we meet in person, so I can get them signed
sure.
by you.
Okay. Thank you very much. All the best. One love.
Miss Pat.
All right.
Yes. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Gee whiz, man. What a beautiful person inside and out. And
Yes.
and check it out. Like I knew even before coming in, but it just even more so, like reggae music would not be the same without Miss Pat. Like you just know it. You know it. There's too many. She's like the ultimate tastemaker, I would say.
She
There's
really
no other
is,
person.
and we already knew that intellectually, but getting to talk to her and really,
Right.
really thinking about like, wow, she was down there at the counter, she'd really just even more so than those musicians. She was there like firsthand, just every day, seeing like, no, that style is what people like. No, that one, no, not that one. This kind of style, So
Right.
I never articulated that to myself until we just talked to her.
Right.
It's beautiful.
That's a trip, man.
So everyone, make sure you go get Miss Pat's new book. It's going to be incredible. It's out today.
On
And-
Amazon, you can get it on Amazon, right?
Yeah, get it wherever. Get the physical
it
copy.
wherever.
We all know how these things go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You put off getting the book, you put it off, and then 3 years later you want it, and it's out of print, and you got to pay $300 on eBay for it.
That's very true.
And she doesn't get any of that money. You know what I mean? So go pick it up now. And we want to give some shout outs real quick. Roger, you want to
Shout
handle?
outs.
'Cause there's some
Yes.
cool
Do you
stuff
have the
going on.
slide?
Our
Is the
friends are
slide
doing
there?
stuff. Ah, yes, the slide.
We got the slide.
Ooh.
Here are shout outs for this week. Just things that we love and we want to support. Cali Roots Radio, Eric Rachmani and Irie Dan play reggae from all eras every Friday and Saturday and Sunday on the Joint at channel 722 on the SXM app. We got songs from scratch with Nate Feinstein.
We just did that.
We just did that, man. That was so much fun. That was crazy. You guys got to go watch that. I don't know. It was like almost 3 hours where me and
Yeah, it was
Devin
a
went
long
and we wrote a song with Nate on the spot. Like really just a lot of fun. And the song came out really dope. So go check that out. Clinton Fearon, A Sunday With and Talk With a Friend. His Facebook is Clinton Fearon Music, Instagram at Clinton Fearon. History of LA Ska, celebrating Southern California ska and reggae scene. Go check out their Instagram at History of LA Ska.
Yeah,
Chuck
Big
Foster's
Eric and Junior.
big up, man, big up. Chuck Foster's Reggae Central every Sunday from 2 to 5 on KPFK 90.7. Or where's their website again? Their website would be KPFK, right?
.org. Yeah, KPFK.org.
.org. Go check it out online too. Junior Francis Reggae Show. That happens every Saturday night from 8 to 11 on KXLU.com. You can also get it if you live in Los Angeles. And our straight up biggest reggae club, I would say, for us in the world. And we love Tom and Boss Harms, what they do at Dub Club. And they're going to be performing tonight every Wednesday from 9 to 12. So go follow their Twitch, twitch.tv/dubclubla.
That's so fun. And I can't wait for Dub Club to open again. It's like one of the things I'm most looking forward to when things starts opening up, which hopefully, fingers crossed, will be soon. One more shout out I want to give is not here on the slide, but our girl Kayla Cush does her radio show, UW, in Madison, Wisconsin. Nice. And I saw her in the comments tonight. I want to make sure I shout her out. She's one of the great reggae DJs we have today. Big up Kayla.
Kayla.
And let's see all these slides. What's the next slide here?
We're sliding over. We're sliding.
We're doing slides. We're slide people. So the next episode is going to be 2 weeks from tonight, March 31st. We have Gentlemen's Dub Club from the UK. I was label mates with them when I was in the Expanders. Both, Expanders and Gentlemen's Dub Club, putting out music on Easy Star Records. They've got a new record coming out. I don't know off the top of my head if it comes out the day we have them on, but it's right around then. Mm-hmm. And you always know Gentlemen's Dub Club are putting out high quality music. We're super stoked to talk to those guys. That'll be 2 weeks from tonight, March 31st. Raj, I know you've been doing some real cool stuff. I'm excited to hear you talk about this thing you got going on. What's going on with you?
Yeah, always trying to put out cool content. I got this new thing that I'm doing called Classics Gone Digital. And it's a concept I haven't seen done. I mean, Jamaican music is founded throughout its history on versioning and the updated versions of old rhythms. And so what I decided to do is take some old school rhythms and flip them into an 80s digital vibe. Started recently getting into 80s reggae, digital reggae. I'd encourage everyone to go look at that shift.
I remember one crazy night in Phoenix, I believe it was, with me and you and Opie listening to the digital stuff in that hotel room.
Hotel room, late night. I love it. It. Yeah, I always remember that night. So I started getting into it so much that I just started doing the research and getting the actual equipment that was used when that genre was starting to be defined. So, episode 1 of this, Classics Gone Digital, is out now. You can check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on my YouTube. Just type in Roger Rivas, type in Classics Gone Digital, or follow me on my Instagram. And I'm going to be putting out more and more episodes. People seem to dig it. So
I really dig it. I got to say, as a fan myself of 80s digital, a huge fan. It's one of my favorite eras of Jamaican music. I was so stoked when you started getting into it and when I saw you putting out that video, because if there's one thing I know about you, and I know a few things, but if there's one thing I know, when you really decide to get into the production of any kind of Jamaican music, you go all in terms of finding out what the equipment was, really finding out the nuances of what made that style. And when I was at your studio recently and you were showing me like, I got the original like drum machines and I got the keyboards and stuff, I was just like, oh man, some good stuff is coming. So to see it really start to come out, I'm super stoked on it.
Thank you
awesome.
for that. Yeah, man.
And
what do you got cracking?
You've set yourself up for some
man,
for me too, because I'm gonna be hitting you up like, hey Raj, I need a rhythm over
the Man Like Devin digital album. I could see it happening.
It's gonna
happen.
Sure. I'm still doing songbook sessions every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time right here on rootfire.net/TV. Big up the whole songbook sessions crew. We got a nice little crew of people that tune in every single week. I sing songs and take requests. And it's really fun. It's really been filling the void of not having shows to play very nicely. And you can also take a music lesson with me at backstagemusiclessons.com, or just hit me up directly. I'm doing songwriting, singing, and guitar lessons. And then, of course, go follow me on Twitch I'm almost to my goal of 30 followers. And
Dope.
once I get there, we're going to do a DJ party. So please go follow me on Twitch.
Nice.
You know, the reason Twitch is cool for DJ stuff is because it doesn't kick you off like Instagram does for copyright infringement. I heard that maybe like after you post it, it might get messed with, but I really just care about the live stream for that purpose, you know. So that's why Twitch, that's why, you know, Dub Club tonight is on Twitch. They moved from Instagram because Instagram just kept like shutting them off.
Right.
So that's that. And you know, if you have any newsworthy items, oh, Gussie doesn't like the news section.
Gussie's got some news for you.
He's got some news. I got some news for you. You've been doing this too long. This is about the time where he's like, "Can you come downstairs now?"
Right.
Yeah. If you have any newsworthy items that you think we should talk about during the show, hit us up at the Reggae PodClash at gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Instagram and all that stuff. But until then, we will see everybody 2 weeks from tonight when Gentleman's Dub Club is our guest.
Yes.
So please go subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends to do so. Go check out the Reggae PodClash merchandise store at rootfire.net. It's rootfire.net, yeah, and click on the store tab. And until 2 weeks from tonight, I am Man Like Devin.
I am Roger Rivas, a.k.a. Reggae Raj.
Yep. We'll see y'all very soon.